Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
Welcome to day 4 of What's on Tap podcast, Advent Calendar 2024.
Christmas.
All right, and today I've picked beer, and I have picked this beautiful green fleur-de-lis wrapping paper with fleur-de-lis.
So, if you included the wrapping paper in the photos for last year's, this is the last of
last year's wrapping paper?
This is the last strip of last year's wrapping paper. I only had enough for one beer.
Yeah.
And this is it.
Well, that's kind of funny you should say that, because whenever I wrapped the beer for day, day 3 and day 1, what I did was I rolled out the paper and I covered for both of them, but apparently it wasn't I used the Drops of Jupiter bottle as the measuring tool and not the bigger Smithsville Slots beer. And it did not quite cover the entire bottle.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, you had the seam turned away from you, so that was what you missed.
Smart.
All right, so if I'm feeling this has a wax bottle of some sort. I'm guessing it's a Nerdbrewing bottle. Let's see what we got.
Who feels the presence?
Oh, Nerdbrewing. It's kind of the fun. So this is one of the things that drives my girlfriend crazy. Is sometimes I'll pick up a package and I can just like tell them that so this is like such and such. She's like, I hate you so much.
So yes, it is a Nerd bottle beer.
Yes.
It is waxed. It is Brute Force 2022, which is what?
Imperial stout with dark forest honey and toasted coconut.
Yep.
Comes in at 13.3% ABV. We're really hitting the ABVs this year.
Yeah.
And then Emperor's Brewing and Nerdbrewing collab.
Yes, and as far as I know, you've never had.
I have never had this. 100%. 2022. Have they done this since then, or they just always put the year on them?
Since a great number of years ago, they always put the year on. In case they do another batch, why not?
Yes.
And even if you never make another batch, having the year easily visible is never a bad thing.
Definitely not. I appreciate it.
Some Belgian brewers hide it so much that you need to calculate from the best before. This one has a good carbonation.
I know. I was actually quite surprised by that.
Good head and crown.
Yeah. It looks really nice. The carbonation on this is super strong. I'm quite surprised by that. The lacing on the glass is crazy. So
it does taste a tiny bit dusty.
It's only 2 years old at this point. It's surprised to be a little dusty. But yeah, it does smell a little dusty on the nose, so I'm not going to lie. Dark forest honey. What is dark forest honey?
Honey from the dark forest. I don't know.
I know. It's from the dark forest.
Okay.
The dark Bavarian forest.
I'll be
also
honest.
where they get the dark forest ham.
I'll be honest. I'm pretty certain that it's dark forest honey, not dark forest honey. So honey either comes out dark or light, depending on the type of flowers that the bees collect pollen from.
So it's dark
forest
is a
honey.
descriptor of the forest honey.
Yes.
Got you.
So really dark honey that happens to have been collected in a forest, which probably makes it darker because of the type of flowers that the bees would get honey from. Instead of a heather honey would be really light.
I get what you're saying here. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
The aroma is giving me some warning flags.
And not. So as this is opened up in just a few seconds, I'm actually getting more of the honey off of it.
That's good. Let's try it.
It's definitely getting the roasted notes. Where's Emperor's Brewery from?
Britain.
Okay.
They were at MBCC this year.
All right.
Cheers.
Whoa, that is definitely roasted. There's a lot of roasting coming off of there. That is I don't think I've ever had a stout make my mouth water this much. That is so roasted. It's crazy.
It's very dry, very roasted. Like this 90% dark chocolate comes to mind.
It's really in that, I don't know about 90, but definitely in the 80% dark chocolate kind of area.
The kind of dark chocolate you give to children, say, this is chocolate, and the children go, ooh, I liked chocolate until today.
Yeah, and a lot of adults as well.
But the taste isn't this. When we say dusty, we mean faded imperial stouts that kind of go towards cardboard, and you can smell it on the nose.
Yeah.
And if the stouts are too old and they start to taste like wet cardboard,
I don't get wet cardboard off of this. I don't get the dark forest honey and toasted coconut either. I get more of a kind of an affogato. Vanilla and espresso kind of experience here.
So Stefan made me laugh because I had the beer in my mouth, and as soon as he said affogato, I tasted coffee.
Yeah, this is like a really strong espresso flavor. If you were to tell me that you put espresso, if I was drinking a cold espresso, I would believe you.
No, it has a pretty good viscosity. The mouthfeel is pretty good. And the carbonation is good enough.
Yeah. And it has this, I don't know how to describe it, Nerdbrewing base beer flavor to it.
It does.
I don't know what that flavor is, but when I've had it enough times when I taste it, I'm like, oh, well, that's the Nerdbrewing base beer, which is, I don't know, kind of sweet, a little tannic, a little heavily roasted malt bill on it. It's something that I recognize. It almost like as soon as I taste it, I'm like, that's a Nerdbrewing beer.
I think we would both have blind tasted this as a Nerdbrewing beer.
Yeah,
I think
very, very possible. But unfortunately, I don't get the honey. I definitely do not get any coconut off of this. I would expect it to be the honey to still be there in some way, at least in the sweetness or some sort of aftertaste. Yeah. Coconut, of course, fades really, really quick, so I'm not surprised there's no coconut there. I'd actually be a little surprised if there was coconut from the start, but I haven't tried it when it was fresh.
We've had 2-year-old coconut beers that definitely tasted like coconut, so you definitely can achieve it.
And we have had Nerdbrewing beers that had toasted coconut in that did not taste like toasted coconut. And I'm thinking about that Yoda thing, whatever, I can't remember, Yoda condition. Which is a toasted coconut imperial stout as well.
I think that was also made with Emperor's Brewing.
That very well could be.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So I feel like they did a bit of a swing and a miss on this one. I don't think that the problem or the things that I'm feeling about the beer are not entirely chalked up to it being 2 years old.
No.
Because I don't think it's, with the wax cap and everything, I don't feel like it would have faded that much from oxidation or other kind of thing. So I feel like what we're getting in the bottle is pretty close to probably how it presented when it was fresh.
Yeah. So I had this a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. I gave it a surprisingly good rating, but I did reconnect with an old good friend. So I might have been very biased by the situation.
Could be.
For me, it's a strong 375, but I do like the base.
So for me, it's a really strong 3.5.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But it really depends on how much you love coffee beer.
Yeah.
Because this is incredibly strong coffee beer.
Yes.
Even though it doesn't say coffee on it, the roasting on this is just really pushing those malts to the edge. Because sometimes you get them and the malts are just, they're over the edge. They've gone too far. These are just walking that thin line. And that's what I like about Johannes, what he does, is he really knows how to really roast the malts on these things and really get that kind of depth of flavor into the beers, and I love that about the Nerdbrewing beer.
I think if this one had honey and toasted coconut, you would have raised it
100%.
quite significant.
100%. If any of those flavors had been presenting themselves, if it was just a little bit sweeter, or if the coconut was there in any way whatsoever, it would have felt. I would have definitely raised this, but I'd be willing to bet that because of how hard the malts are roasted here, that it probably killed that toasted coconut right off the bat.
Yeah, well, I do like the branding of it being named Brute Force, and then there's like this picture of the Death Star.
Yep.
Instant.
No copyright issues there at all.
I mean, we've heard of breweries having stormtrooper beer, and that is immediately struck down by. And now Disney is more litigious than Lucasfilm ever were.
Well, now that a lot of the Disney IP is becoming up to be public domain, they're getting a little more precious with a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
Expect a lot of Marvel and DC characters to also fall into public domain in the next couple of years.
But I do like the combination of the name Brute Force with the Death Star, which is kind of the definition of brute force.
Definitely.
Oh, you won't comply with diplomatic discussions? Boom!
We will make you comply.
You have no planet. But yeah, strong 375 for me, strong 3.5 for you.
Yeah.
I expected you to give it lower, so I'm very.
Why would you expect me to give it lower?
Because it's lacking of the flavors on the label.
That I am kind of a stickler for that. I agree. But I think that it's, the one things I like about the Nerdbrewing beer are there, and I think what Hannes does really does great, really comes through in this beer. It's just a shame it's missing the adjuncts that would kind of elevate it into the
But I wouldn't.
next
I
level.
mean, you're not a stickler. A beer needs to present what's on the label. Yesterday we had a bourbon oak that tasted nothing like bourbon and just like whiskey. That's also a problem.
It is.
But it's still a fun beer, and it's one you have never tried.
That is very true. And then there will be many more beers that I've never tried.
In your life?
Just in this calendar, hopefully.
I think both are probably true.
I know for a fact they're both true.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're wrapping up here. Until next time, you can find us online at What's on Tap Podcast, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Where else? The Carrier Pigeon, Semaphore, wherever you find podcasts, you'll find What's on Tap.
Yeah.
So till then,
keep drinking, you dum-dums.
Merry Christmas, bitches.